death by just waiting and not using it.
Alright.
You know
Good to go,
that
whenever.
this early one didn't have an HDMI port,
Yeah.
so it's really poor quality.
Use the fucking component cable.
Yeah.
And for a while I thought that Dan's Xbox 360 was like that, and then it turns out it does have a HDMI port, and he was just watching it with like through the shitty settings for ages.
I remember the day I got a HDMI cable. It just blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck? What is this thing called HD? What a moment. It's like the day I got a TV.
Don't you
bigger than,
think you
like-
should put this the other way around, because I'm the loudest, so it would make sense to have that as far away from me as possible so that you will benefit from...
Point it, Johnny. Actually, we'll point it in between you two.
Yeah, but I think instead of doing northeast, we should do northeast-east. So we should have it just a little bit like that.
No, bet you earned that naval geography. Then
Yeah, hold the line.
do nothing.
Man, that means I'm the one looking at. I feel more important now. I can look at it and just see the.
Are we gonna
the
see-
Yeah, we got a
line
pretty
going.
good view, haven't we? You and I.
We've got the view of the podcast.
We should just do every podcast in this with this setup. This is our professional studio.
We just have a boom mic that's thrown on the music stand.
With the acoustics, Tony, it helps.
It's cursed, Harry. It's never produced a well audio balanced thing.
You know what we got to do because of the boom mics here?
Clap sync.
We're not filming.
Come on, Johnny, get that IMDb trivia page up.
I haven't actually looked through the IMDb trivia page.
I had a
for this
glance, it
one.
was quite good.
I have a feeling this is all going in.
Yeah, I mean, we clicked play like 2 minutes ago.
You ever heard of editing?
Yeah, but can't we keep all this in? Make it feel
it's naturalistic.
authentic.
It really makes you feel like Batman.
The coldest of cold opens.
It's like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That good show that no one told me it was good.
Yeah.
Until everyone told me it was good
So,
once.
everyone's been telling me it's good. Watch the first few episodes.
I went years of my life not knowing about it, and then suddenly like 10 people in a week told me it was like the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah, that's basically what happened with me. It's just like, it's just dismiss it as one of those
It very
type
quickly
shows.
spreads. It's like a...
But I see, the thing is, I can't remember a single memorable episode of that show, and I've watched all 5 series, apart from that one episode which really stood out to me as being really, really good.
It can be consistently good though.
Yeah, it's consistently funny, but there's no episode apart from that one that's actually, you know, had an impact on me or made me go back and rewatch them. But I had rewatched that Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode like a few times 'cause it's really good.
We should release this as the separate Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, Tony,
fucking
you have watched a couple episodes
I've
of that.
seen
How about-
one or two.
at the-
I've seen the statistical analysis. Of,
Oh,
what was that
Moneyball.
for? Moneyball.
How about at the end of the podcast we go, oh no, for our Plus subscribers you get 20 extra minutes of pod. Here's a teaser of what that is, and we'll put this clip in. And then like, we'll go, that's just some of the extra content you'll get by becoming a Mediate Plus subscriber.
You just one of our PayPals is just linked in the bottom.
You know we could mass market this entire series one day.
Could we even?
I like the idea of just putting all this up, so if anyone's got anything incriminating to say, on a day in which 7 podcasts are going to be released.
Don't look me right in the eyes when you say if anyone's got anything
I've
incriminating
still got
to say.
that recently deleted recording there, Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to tell them about my fantasy, my ultimate fantasy?
Yes.
It's a lonely evening. Have I got news for you, Izon? There's 3 new members. Replacing Victoria Corin Mitchell this week is... I'm not going to say her name because I don't want her to be associated with this podcast.
It's better than that. Jonathan, are we ready?
I don't know. I'm scrolling through quotes, wondering if there's a good one just to start off with.
In fucking Bruges, mate.
Hello, I'm welcome.
Chris off my accent. You can fact right off.
You can fuck right off, mate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wait for you to start.
Yeah, I know. Should I go for like a?
It's like the first podcast all over again.
Oh, I listened to that the other day.
How is it?
Again, as in the first one, your intro, your 3-minute one.
Ah,
You know, it opens with the Legend of Zelda thing.
Yeah.
I was like, fucking hell.
That's such a cool thing.
copyright claim.
Did it actually get striked? All our ad revenues
I know.
stolen.
You know we're actually making like 50 quid a month that I'm pocketing.
Oh, imagine. Does it still record when it goes to a black
Yeah.
screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
okay.
mean, in all fairness, it wouldn't be the end of the world if you got the 50 quid each week, as long as Jonathan doesn't get it with his 8k in his bank account.
Oh, it's okay.
It's more now, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I am gonna edit all this out, don't worry.
because my because when my brother went off to uni, my parents paid for his first year of accommodation. So they're like, well, we owe you like your first year of accommodation then. So I'm getting like just now. I think my mum's put in like an extra 5,600. So
Because you've got loads of money, do you want to go to the Empire Strikes Back together? I'll book 2 tickets. Do you want to come to that?
Where is that?
It's in Leeds.
Oh, yeah.
September. Like, I don't know when you're going back, but it's in late September.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, no, I'll come along. Is it with like a live score then and everything?
Yeah.
Tony, do you want to come up and watch it as well?
I mean, I work 1.5 hours a week, and I haven't been paid yet, ever. So
You say you were going to get
no.
No, but seriously though, no one listens to this podcast. So why not include all of this stuff in? Because the whole idea is to go back.
Why not
I'll release this as a separate
make it
podcast.
completely
Yeah, all
shit.
right. No, but my point is, in 2030
BD8
from now, when
finally
we go back,
gives up.
we want to listen back to, random things as well, as long as they're interesting. Go, I remember when we talked about Jonathan was 8k. It's just why not keep it in?
I will stick this at the end.
Okay, that's good. Why not include that conversation
after
about
10
the purpose
minutes,
of art?
There's going to be
Harry?
10 minutes of nothing. This, 10 minutes of nothing, so you have to... It's going to be hard to
Could
find.
be like an endless nameless thing going on.
Just fucking make a racket up here. Just throw things
Yeah.
at other things.
It's okay, I'll get my guitar, hook it into an amp, we can play cricket with it.
Ugh,
The podcast is now.
right.
Alright, should we actually
Should we
start?
start?
Yeah, media's good.
I say that like it was on you guys. Ugh,
It is.
right. So
It's very inaccessible.
And more inaccessible than this.
I mean, you can watch the film.
Yeah, you can also listen to us talk about it.
None of them are good.
so after a man.
Sorry.
So after the terrible job we did on Boys in the Hood, we've now had to we've had to go on the run now, guys. And there's only one place so remote that we can hide. A shame.
One
kill a
place
priest.
they'd never look for us.
Yeah.
And
Accidentally
it's,
shot Ricky.
In the place where all our podcasts
Oh my
have
god!
failed.
I wonder if there's a way to edit that scene so it's just like me photoshopping the car with the shotgun shooting Ricky down.
there's only one place so secluded we can be safe. It's in fucking Bruges. Right, so this 2008 film in Bruges. It's a comedy crime drama. I'm told. But you know, I won't accept that any film is a crime film. It's not a genre. Not a genre. But yeah, so guilty stricken after a job gone wrong, hitman Ray and his partner await orders from their ruthless boss in Bruges, Belgium, the last place in the world that Ray wants to be. So I came across this film. Oh, director Martin McDonough. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so, yeah.
I just have doubts. Also written by him. That's the sort of facts you usually go for, as well as the Colin Farrell, Ralph Fiennes, and Brendan Gleeson being your main actors in it, and not what's he called? Peter Dinklage. It's not him. I thought
That's a
it was
funny
him
story.
for
I was
so
going to
long.
mention that.
I
I didn't want to be dwarfist in a suit.
No, it's because for some reason, in the days leading up to watching In Bruges together, I say in days, in years leading up to watching In Bruges, for some reason we remembered it being Peter Dinklage. From that
Yeah,
door, we went back and we
it's-
were like, actually, it's not him. And then I told you, and you thought I was just lying. You were so confident.
I
it was
know.
him.
It's just something because I know about this film because it's my brother's favourite film, and so he got me and the family to watch it, and was there going, oh yeah, it's Peter Dinklage, it's Peter Dinklage, it's Peter Dinklage. So that was in my head, and then came with you and like realised it wasn't. So I went back to him and was like, oh, it's not Peter Dinklage. And then recently he was talking about, I think he had a dream where he met Peter Dinklage or something like that, and then it was like, oh, if I met him in real life, I want to talk to him more about than just Game of Thrones, because he's been in other good things like in Bruges. I'm like, Andrew, I've told you this already. He's not in Bruges.
Can you imagine how awkward that would be, meeting someone and saying they're good in something that they're like not in.
Yeah. But anyway, so my brother was there going, no, you sure he's not? He is in Bruges. I'm like, I've told you this before. He's not in Bruges.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We should have had a recording of our own conversation where I told you that it wasn't Peter Dinklage and you were just having none of it.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, I thought it was Peter Dinklage as well until I found out that it wasn't him.
It looks like it could be a young version of him,
Yeah.
and then you realise 2008, it's a bit too much of a young version of him to be.
Also, he's like not aged. Like if you see Elf, which came out in 2003, he like looks like he does now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all saw Infinity War. He's grown a little bit.
Oh, it's fucking massive now.
He's growing worse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where's the handle?
I like that scene.
Anyway, so in Bruges, it's just I just really like this film. I just find it funny. I find it emotionally interesting. I find the characters very captivating, and I just like some of the themes you can pick up from it as well. And it's just a good comedy as well. It's my version of Snatch that you go on quite a lot about. In that you can just sit down and watch it basically, and it's just sort of a weirdly accessible yet kind of I don't know, something more. It's yeah. I'm just spilling words out here, but I prefer this to Snatch, which I think you possibly don't. But
Snatch is one of my favourite films, like top 10 material, and In Bruges is really good. Don't get me wrong.
So the same for me with In Bruges. But yeah, I think I'll get your guys' opinions first.
So who else had seen it before we went into the LieMDB?
Me.
Ethan.
Yeah.
How long ago did you see it?
So it was a very long time ago. I think, funnily enough, I watched this film on a portable DVD player. Came back from holiday once, because I know my aunt had it on DVD, and I borrowed it. I think along with some other films to watch on the way back, because it was a long journey. And yeah, in fact I think I remember watching it again. Maybe I watched the film and then I watched another film and then I went back and rewatched In Bruges, because Jonathan's right. There is something that is kind of inaccessible about it, but it's very rewatchable material, I think. And I'm talking about watching it again on the same day. But yeah, no, it's a really, really good film. It's not too long. It feels like it's the perfect length for what's included within the film. I think we were talking about the director a minute ago, and you've not seen Three Billboards, which is a film you probably should see at some point. But something this guy does extremely well is in his take on black comedy, he's able to have these brilliant moments where you don't know whether to gasp or to laugh, because they can be very, very funny, but they can also be quite depressing at the same time. He's very good at balancing those two tones, and not in a way where it's so imbalanced where you have Nicholas Hoult dying and just Immortan Joe scream straight afterwards. It throws you off that poignant moment. I mean, he's able to rein it in so well, which I like about him. But yeah, there's other things as well. This was probably the first film that made me really change my opinion on Colin Farrell, because I remember not being a massive fan. That was mostly because my mum didn't like him. I take a lot of my opinions from her, and recently I've seen other films with him in. And
so this was my first point of Colin Farrell. Then realised he was in some other things. I think this was the first thing I noticed him. And when I see him, he's the guy from In Bruges.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is,
watching The Lobster was just like, oh, I've seen this guy go through so much shit.
Yeah.
I just want him to have a good day.
Yeah. But it's a combination of three actors who can be so diverse and versatile in their performances. It's actually incredible what they can produce. Don't get me wrong, I love Colin Farrell quite a bit, but Ralph Fiennes, I think, is probably, in the grand scheme of things, one of my favourite actors, because I think you could watch this film, and you can watch Schindler's List, and you can watch Red Dragon, and what this guy can take on is just astounding. Just the range of roles that he can take and just produce, and they are just absolutely flawless.
And then
in a
he's
sense.
also Voldemort and
Voldemort, yeah, exactly.
from the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, but always plays completely different characters, and that's what makes him so good. And he is really good in this film. They're all very funny, the lot of them.
So you've got a Harry Potter trio like heading the front because.
Of course, yeah. Colin Farrell was in The Fantastic Beasts.
And one of the biggest shames of that film is that he was just
He becomes Johnny Depp.
yeah, that was
He becomes a worse actor.
I know. Just, I want to be watching, Colin Farrell with white bits in his hair. That was such a turn on for me, to be honest.
I want to just say, because you've given the other two actors, Brendan Gleeson. I love him so much. The way he can kind of convey but he can act as like a vulnerable, tough man, like really well. Like he's got the perfect balance of like you just want to hug him and you want to run away from him.
Yeah.
And like the way it just from scene to scene he can turn each of those things on, and this is a really good role for him.
Yeah, he is such a great character in this. I think he's probably the one that makes you care about Ray, because like Ray on his own, there's
He's a horrible man.
Yeah,
He's a horrible man.
He's just an absolute bastard to everyone.
Yeah.
But it's seeing him through the eyes of can't remember his character's name because it was a while since I watched it. But
yeah, you guys watched it an hour ago. Surely you can come in and actually tell us.
The only name I know is Harry.
yeah.
For vain reasons.
But you're all right. But it's not just that. I mean, you're definitely right. I think seeing Colin Farrell through the eyes of Brendan Gleeson definitely makes him more relatable. But it's also the fact that Colin Farrell is definitely. I mean, he's so guilty over what he's done.
He is. Yeah. It's like it's hard not to feel for a man who is so like self-deprecating as Colin Farrell is for like most of this film. And I think this is one of the ways in which the dark comedy just really works, because he's kind of at moments he's just laughing about everything, and then you realise it's all just a facade, and like underneath he's just really miserable. Yeah, it's just such a powerful thing I find in this film.
I feel like the writer, what's he called? Martin McDonagh? Is that what we said? Yeah, I feel like he's also someone who I really think he's not afraid of willing to push the boundary of black comedy in certain moments. And he's also, I think, very good at throwing you off guard with things that you don't expect. Because, I mean, I don't think it's a very conventional film, but I think that it's a film that you don't think will go in the direction that it does. I mean, I think Brendan Gleeson's death is quite a big shocker. I think as it gets closer and closer, you kind of feel like that's kind of impending, that's going to happen. But I think maybe halfway through you wouldn't have seen that coming, and I think the film is always is definitely turning you every which way, with Colin Farrell going back on the train away, and what's his name, Ralph Fiennes coming along, and Colin Farrell also about to commit suicide but then getting stopped at the last second. I think it really throws a lot of surprises at you that don't feel out of place either. They definitely feel really well dealt with.
That whole that scene at the park is just one of my favourite.
That's the scene I was
bits
talking about.
Just the music, the like. Just because you're there with Donald Gleeson, and you're feeling his emotion of I'm gonna have to like kill my friend, basically, and they're sort of following there, and he's there sitting on the bench, and just the way it kind of zooms in, and then just at the last moment you see Colin Farrell just take up his gun, and just like oh, shit.
Yeah,
and you're exactly there with Donald Gleeson as he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?"
yeah. And then they have like a really emotional conversation that's very depressing, but it's like on a children's slide. So again, the comedy comes back into it.
It's as well, there's a bit of comedy with like, wait, were you gonna kill me? Just like you were about to commit suicide. Yeah, but I'm allowed to. just a little. Yeah, just you need a little bit of light relief there, and that really works. But yeah, just that whole bit is great. I mean, when I try and separate this film into parts, I realise I like every part of it, because I'm like, oh, the music is just great, and
really
just really works with everything, especially with like some of the just near the end when the main theme just like really gets going. You're just like, oh shit, this is just oof.
Yeah. Sony, this was first time you watched it today, right? What's your thoughts on it? Because Harry, for some reason, thought you wouldn't be a massive fan, but I mean, there's no reason not to.
Alright, well, okay, I can see why Harry would think that, because going into this film, understanding it's a crime film, it's it's got the GCSE drama part of thing of just at the end everyone dies. So yeah, it's got a lot of things that would make it obvious that I would really like this film. It's really good. I would definitely agree with what you've been saying so far. I think the interesting thing is, of course, how it sort of balances that more black comedy with the sort of just depressing nature of, he's killed a kid and he's basically on the run. And I think it never really feels like this feels like it's, being weirdly inconsistent. It always sort of makes sense in its own way. I think it builds up a sort of realistic world with that. It really comes back at the end with I think Mary, the inn owner. I say inn, hotel. And she's like, God, you guys are fucking idiots. I'm like, yeah, they are. And so that in the context of that, it sort of does make sense. It's like they're idiots, but they're also hitmen, and I think it builds out that really well. Yeah, I think I like the sort of emotional journey it goes on. The fact that towards the end you're sort of like, oh, who's gonna kill who? How's this gonna play out? And I think the way it plays out, is really interesting. It sort of calls back to past moments in really good ways.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like. It's just the kind of your final crescendo moment is Ralph Fiennes shooting through Colin Farrell and now I wish I could remember the name of who not Peter Dinklage is, and I don't want to refer to them as not Peter Dinklage. But you're shooting them whilst they're in a school uniform, using the bullets that make your head explode, which have been mentioned twice before, and then it's just the fact that is all happening it's a dream sequence where people are dressed in a similar way to the Purgatory painting that Colin Farrell looks at and is like, I like this painting. It's just so many sort of levels of he's kind of in a sort of purgatory thing as like that whole final thing goes down, which has been suggested that you've seen all the pieces leading there, and then it sort of takes you there.
Very well
and
constructed and put together like a mystery, but instead of finding things out, it's like something happens, which is better.
And whilst we're there at the ending, I just really love the ending of his like the final monologue. And then just the sort of cut away basically before you know what's how it all goes out, but just with seeing things through his eyes as he gets put into the back of an ambulance. And I mean, you say the GCSE drama thing of everybody dies, but he's a question mark.
It's also the Hamlet thing.
But and another thing you sort of said out there, the hotel owner sort of pointing out there just how silly they sort of are. Just
they are silly. But I think they also have like a weird sort of logic to them.
That's what I was going to say, especially with Ralph Fiennes' character, who he is the villain, and that sort of pointed out that he's not a very nice man at all. But he still has
a good reason, because the guy killed a child.
Yeah,
so his motivations are like.
He's there going, his whole sort of thing is, I've got these lines. I wouldn't kill a kid if I killed a kid. I'd just shoot myself, and he does that, and you're just like, He's a villain, but he's true to his word, and he's got this family that he does care for, even if he does shout, "You're an inanimate fucking object." He then apologizes.
And you're like, oh my god, that's the kind of thing that it would sort of play off. Something else might have played off as a joke, but it's like, actually, it kind of makes sense, And the high-stress work environment.
Yeah, and the wife clearly cares for him because she's like, you're bringing the boys, aren't you? And then he's like, no, it's a matter of honor, or matter of principle or whatever. It's just such an unusual villain in the sense that he's given. I don't know. You could imagine there's another film in which you see it from Ralph Fiennes' point of view, in which he is the protagonist who's hunting down this sort of child killer in his own organization. You can
it's definitely a heroes on both sides kind of film. In fact, the least heroic is the main character, in my opinion. So he does get that sort of like, no, you deserve a second chance. You won't do anything good for the world if you just get killed or get put in prison. So if you run off and, I don't know, become a doctor in like
It's-
some third world country.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do some good. I don't know.
It's a line I love, which is Donald Gleason sort of talking to him, and he's sort of saying how he's killed a kid, and then he's just like, well, save the next one, and that's just such a great line. There are lots of little conversations like that sort of stick with me. I've also realised that one of the reasons why I like Ray Fiennes' character kind of gets that nuance is through Donald Gleason's like talking about him, where he's like, yeah, Harry, I owe you everything. Like you're the reason. Well, I guess it was like getting revenge on his wife being killed, but like Harry was a good boss mate to him basically, and he's not going to kill him now, and that just that's another. He just adds nuances to all the characters, and just they're like, oh, you're all humans. You're all actually quite nice guys. You may be killers, but you're still human. Anyway, what did you think, Harry?
Well, I liked it a lot. I kind of knew it was the sort of film that I knew I was gonna like, but yeah, because the guy Martin McDonagh has like a theatre background, and he basically writes plays, and this was I think his first film script that was blacklisted for a few years, which basically just means everyone loves it, but no one's gonna make it because obvious reasons. And then someone finally did make it, and it lost a fuck ton of money. And it's amazing that he's still making films, because this is a really remarkable script, and he's directed it well as well. I don't think I was impressed with the like you said about the music. The music and the filmmaking were decent, but for me it's the script. That's the strength of the script. The setups and payoffs, you know, the logic of the characters, the way it walks the line perfectly between decency and indecency, you know, what you can and can't say. I thought it was pretty much perfect in that regard.
Yeah.
There were some jokes that didn't land for me. I thought some of Colin Farrell's lines, like I could see them playing to some audiences, but for me they were kind of just crass for the sake of being crass. But ultimately,
I mean, to me, that's what most of Borat is.
yeah, I mean,
And even that's a really
I
good
think
film.
sometimes
won't-
when he's just an asshole, though,
There is
at least
there
it
is a
makes
point to
sense.
I was gonna say, yeah,
There
it's
is
it never feels like. I mean, it's a strength of the script. I'd say is that whenever he's, even if he's doing a joke that doesn't land for you, you know it's his character. So it's like you're not.
yeah, the characters are very consistent and well written. It's obviously been well thought out. I like that you essentially have a timeline of what's happened in these people's lives, and it's just very slowly little like drips of information and exposition are kind of like they're well paced, so you never get like a load of exposition at one time. These two guys are in fucking Bruges, which I think is the original title. It's got to be at some point it's got to be been called In Fucking Bruges, and you find out why and what's going on. And like you say, Brendan Gleeson brings such like different dynamics to every character and the way he interacts with them. And I believed all the performances. Again, with the theatrical stuff, the idea, this isn't films, but it's mainly in theatre, the idea of spending 2 acts talking about a character and hearing them off screen, and then suddenly them being introduced.
Yeah.
I really love that aspect. And like the moment Ralph Fiennes, I think he kind of steals the show for me. He's so brilliant as this kind of like soft-spoken Cockney gangster. Like the phone conversation's great as well. I really thought he was great. And then like
And
the
bit
twists and
where
turns.
Donald Gleason is just having to pretend that Colin has left the room when he's not there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And like, you've mentioned all the really shocking moments, like the moment where he's about to shoot him, and then suddenly he pulls a gun on himself. You know, when he's on the train, and then suddenly he's back in Bruges.
Yeah.
It's
Just that final whole bit where the camera's not quite spinning around, basically, but just all your characters are in like around the clock tower.
Oh,
and
that
you're just
actually
all-
that is the one shot where I was like, wow, that's great. Like pretty much everything is set up and paid off in some way. Like all the minor
the guy
characters.
that just get with
Yeah.
the iPad.
And when it spins, it shows you all the major players, and I love how that out of focus as well. It's a really effective shot. Yeah, really good film. Really good film.
It's a shame because the other day we were doing another podcast. I think we were whatever it was we were doing, and we suggested, oh, what we're going to do in Bridge next. Why don't we watch it? And I said, no, I watched it recently. Just talking about it makes me want to watch it now. Actually, I wish we'd watched it together the other day. Actually,
Yeah, it definitely seems like
miss
the
it.
sort of film I would like to have watched with someone who'd have seen it before, just because it's so dense and like. I'm sure. Just quickly flicking through the IMDb trivia, there's so many like little cool facts about it, like the amount of fucks per second, you know, like all the stuff with like the painting. I mean, I kind of picked up on the fact that it's the whole in Bruges is kind of like this purgatory for these people, like they're waiting to see what's going to happen with their lives. But like the fact that last, like you said, the kind of last sequence resembles the painting. Like I didn't really pick up on that, and that's clever.
Yeah, no, they're the things that possibly that's something I got from the trivia or from talking to possibly my brother, but I might have also got it from like a second viewing or something like that, because I've seen it a few times, and just I always feel like I noticed more things, like character things, like, and because of the way the sort of exposition is dotted round about each character, you things start to fall into place more as you sort of go through, because there are definitely things it took a second viewing for me to like realize, that's his whole deal, and that's his whole deal, and that's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely like all the performances are layered enough. I'm sure a second viewing would work.
I think one of the few things I dislike about this film, and you'll probably disagree with me, but I don't think the love interest is particularly well developed. I think she's well played, but I think from what I remember, her personality isn't. Oh, maybe that's a bit harsh, but I remember thinking she was a bland character in contrast with these three men who I think are a lot more well produced and a lot more in-depthly written than her. Even though she's not as central a character, I think they could have done more with that from where I'm sat.
Yeah, she does sort of have more of a backseat.
Yeah, I remember her being quite like a dark character who's kind of when he makes dark jokes, she laughs and also makes a funny dark joke as well. But I remember just that's just kind of like her trait. And I mean, we know that Clint Eastwood is a cowboy, and he's mysterious. And that's like it.
No, I feel like
Sometimes that's all you need.
She's suitably fucked up. Like, I believe that her and is it Ray? I don't know.
Yeah, he's
Ray.
called Ray.
I believe the two of them together. But yeah, it would have been nice if like they were. But I guess it's basically a three-hander, isn't it? So like you do have these supporting characters who have one or two scenes, and she's probably the fourth main character.
And also, I mean, we watch films about, we watch crime films actually, where the criminals and the hitmen and the gangsters are all in kind of, dense urban cities, and it's refreshing to watch one where these two hitmen have to go somewhere like some very vague, obscure European city, and it's just nice to have that change. And the scenery is fantastic. It's like Prague. It's just beautiful.
You see why I wanted to go to Bruges?
Yeah, of course I do.
And I think you showed me a video with the director and writer talking about how
I did, yeah.
Yeah, how I think he'd gone to Bruges for some reason, and he was kind of like a Ray getting bored at the whole sort of thing, and just kind of was imagining what would happen, and he jumped to this idea of two hitmen waiting out from a like job gone wrong, basically.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I mean, it feels like you're just going on holiday for like an hour and a half with these characters, where one of them is extremely bored and disinterested, and the other one is like, oh, I've got these lovely paintings and
Canals.
buildings and canals. It's like, yeah, no, they are lovely. It's really nice.
I want to go out and see the buildings and that. I bet they'll be nice in the dark, all lit up.
No, that conversation that Gleeson has with Fiennes is so funny. When Fiennes is like, "What do you mean you didn't fucking like it? What's not to like about Bruges? It's fucking magical."
He didn't like it at first.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a fairy tale, I think.
Yeah, like a fairy
how that
tale.
then gets
Yeah.
repeated.
Like a good
later.
dream.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. He's good at making you care about horrible people, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because Three Billboards makes you like sympathise with this like horrible racist man.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a difficult situation, because I feel like in Bruges, this disgusting nature is built into them, and I feel like Sam Rockwell in Three Billboards isn't that person. I think deep down, I don't think he was.
He was a pretty bad guy.
No, I know he was a pretty bad guy, but I think part of me thinks that wasn't who he was, and that was just on for show, or his mum had made him like that. But the fact that he changes shows that there was always some good in him from the beginning. And the fact that everyone picks on him does make you kind of like him a bit from the onset. You're right, even though he is like a massive racist who throws people out of windows and stuff like that.
Caleb Landry Jones, he's not creepy at all.
Yeah.
He's not going to ask you about your genetic code, Jenna.
I think even though they're obviously hitmen and Harry's obviously a crime lord, and also the guy in the film,
I was confused for a bit there.
even though that is obviously a fact about them, it does more play into the fact that they're human, and that the one really bad thing that Ray does is he killed someone on accident, which are obviously really bad, you know.
I mean, he also killed someone on purpose.
Well, to be fair,
It was killing someone
most
on
of them they
purpose,
say,
though.
most of the people deserve it. I'm like,
That's
I'll
the
allow
thing.
that, you know.
The kid was just collateral, but the priest actually probably had done something wrong. If he was
Yeah.
Catholic,
And
we
they
could
they
probably
have the
guess
whole
what.
discussion about like, oh, you know, you kill a bad person and the one people you kill, you know, that's in self-defense, you know. So mostly they're not too like, oh, it's not like they're, you know, pure evil, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like they do a good job of like building out and showing that they are principled.
Because you don't really see it apart from Ray and his flashbacks. You see that. But you don't see Donald Gleason any of the like stuff he's done, and I don't think you don't see him shoot a gun at all. And he's the one who's been in the game for a much longer. You get the feeling that, or at least he seems to think about himself, that he's too far gone, basically. And yet he's the one who you don't see like do anything bad, which I guess is why he seems the most human and managed to project a more human sort of look on these more villainous characters.
Yeah.
Though he himself has killed more people than Ray has, because that was just Ray's first mission, as it were.
Yeah, I definitely think that also him being this sort of, you know, older guy, it was like he felt like he had sort of made his peace with things, which sort of made it like less sad when, you know, it's like him, you know, accepting his death. Like, you know, normally that'd be like, oh, really sad, you know, but I was like, no, this makes sense for this scene. And then he doesn't die, and then he does die, you know. That whole thing. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's the other thing that I remember about it actually outside of the film was when we rewatched it together. I was like, wait, this film's an 18? Well, I don't remember it being that bad. And you were like, oh, hang on, remember how Donald Gleason dies, Ethan? And I was
Yeah,
like,
because you remembered
oh, yeah.
nothing about it.
No, I didn't. Yeah, because I mean, I watched it when I was like
Swears
14.
a lot. Like,
It does. Yeah, no, I know.
The amount of cunts alone would get it.
A lot of F-bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
But
all the
again-
cunt kids.
Americans
You
hate
retract
that
that.
word as well, don't they? They just don't use the word
Yeah.
cunt.
No, I think in America when they use the word cunt, it's a lot less offensive. I think in
No,
the
you're
UK
thinking
we've
of
reserved it
Australia.
a lot more. No, I'm thinking of America.
America just don't use it.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it's always-
Americans are weirdly more prudish than Brits are.
Yeah, they hate that word. Like,
Really? I've seen tons of shit American stuff where they use that word, but it doesn't have the same gravity that it does in England. If you use that, then you really do mean you're the scum of the earth. But in America, I think it's just
I think it's the opposite. This
You-
country,
really?
I
yeah, it's
feel
way
it's
more
the
way more
opposite.
casual in
Okay.
this country.
Well, sure.
Do you guys think? I don't know if I agree with this, but do you guys think it would be more interesting if you didn't see Ray's hit? You just heard about it.
I think it's because it is so important for the final scene where it mirrors it very accurately.
Yeah.
That helps a
Yeah.
lot.
I think what also helps seeing that scene is that is that you can see firsthand that it was just an accident. He didn't mean to kill the kid. I think if you heard about it, because there's still some opportunity for it to be an unreliable account of what happened,
Yeah.
could make you think, oh, was it an accident? Was it not an accident? But you see Colin Farrell's genuine look of like, fuck, what have I done?
And I think
that's
it's
kind of
one of those things where it's better to like show and not tell in a way, because what you get
Yeah.
in the shot is you see the child praying basically in this, you know, very innocent pose, and then when he dies you see him pick up the little scrap of paper where he has the kid's wishes, and don't think he ever mentions that, and it would be worse just to mention, oh, he had a little book of, no, he had a little scrap of paper with what he wanted. It's seeing those words and seeing his blood on top of it that just is so much more powerful an image than what you could get, I imagine, from just him talking about it.
yeah.
You know what's also really good about how it's portrayed in a callback to Call to the Future of what we're going to do in round 4 with Harry picking a rival. Paid off the joke. Is the way it plays with, you know, how you perceive time to happen. If like it doesn't start with, okay, here's the backstory played at the beginning to set up the character expectations. It's like first, third, towards the end of it, where it's like, oh, you think it's happening now. You think he's confessing to that priest now. He's like, I've killed
yeah.
someone. And then he's like, I've killed you. And he's like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And he kills the priest and you realise it's the flashback. You're like, oh my god, genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, very intelligently well done.
Also, if you don't show it, it's actually it's probably unintentionally funny. Like, I accidentally shot a child while I was trying to kill a priest. It's like, it's just there's no way you can sound, like,
Yeah.
especially with the tone of the film. It's kind of
Yeah, it does a good job of, though, like, there are a lot of things that could have been funny if it wasn't as good as flipping between things that are funny and things that are serious. You know, like the scene where the guy just jumps off a building and he drops some coins. Like, come on, a guy jumping off a building is like pretty funny, you know, most cases. But in this case, it's like, oh, you know, you appreciate, you know, the severity of, like, he had to, you know, go down the stairs to warn the guy of the other guy, and he, you know, was looking all across that misty landscape, you know, like a dream. It's like, oh, it's really calling back to those previous things.
Yeah.
Really.
And I want to stress what I said earlier, that what he very much does, even though I'm pretty sure I said this, is in any precise moment has the balance between comedy and drama, rather than just having scenes that are drama and having scenes that are comedy, because anyone can do that, but mixing the two in one precise moment is really challenging, and he does that.
Not knowing how to react to something because it's like funny, but it's also like, should I be laughing at this?
I mean,
it's really hard to do.
I think if I'd taken a shot every time I'd had one of those moments in 3 billboards where I didn't know whether to laugh or to gasp, I would have just been like completely hammered by the end of it.
I really want to watch 7 Psychopaths.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I think 7 Psychopaths I think wasn't really well received, but I watched it and was like, this is a pretty good film. I don't know what people don't like about it, and it's quite good. It's, again, I think it's Colin Farrell and Sam Rockwell, and Woody Harrelson's in it, and so's that guy. What's he called? The one from A View to a Kill, the villain.
Christopher Walken?
Yeah, Christopher Walken's in it.
Oh, that's how you know Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Max Shrek! Alright, Johnny, do you have anything else to...
No, I think I've said most of what I want to say.
Are we ready?
We should have had your brother on as a guest for this one. We should have started the guest thing right now.
We ready to put some numbers on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Johnny, set the bar, my friend.
So I think it's... And I think I'm going to go for a 10, because it didn't start off that way, but it's just made it up, and it's just been so good with rewatching, and just the fact that it manages to walk that perfect line between, you know, the darkness and the comedy, and just it's and yet it I don't know, it just brings up all those things, and yet you could just sort of say to your family even, oh yeah, shall we just watch this, or just, you know, you're out with a bunch of mates,
Wouldn't watch
shall we
young
watch it in
children,
Bruges? Yeah, I mean, I guess
mean,
I'm being the youngest one in my family over 18.
Yeah.
For me, it's the sort of thing I could go, hey.
I probably would watch this with younger children. I could see myself watching. I could see myself watching Old Boy with my son when he's like 7 years old or something like that.
You know, watch it with your daughter.
Oh,
Oh no, no.
Didn't know whether you were gonna laugh or gasp.
If I just yelled no.
Who's gonna go next?
Alright, well, I'll slightly limbo under that bar, but, you know, maybe graze it slightly with, I think I'm really glad this film, I think it did a good job of, you know, hooking me in early. Despite the fact that Ray comes off as a massive dick in like the first 15 minutes of the film, you're like, fuck this guy. But like, it really does turn around. It's like, oh, you know, fair enough, you know, he's like, he killed the kid, but, you know, fair enough.
How does that make it more sympathetic? Like, killing a kid, being a dick.
I mean, that's just how my moral code works. Just the fact that he didn't appreciate the scenery of Bruges, I was like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
Oh man,
accidentally killed a kid.
I think one of
I get it.
the bits my parents found funniest was just the bit where like Ray comes back and wakes Donald Gleason and just is being very noisy and turning on the lights. I think they were relating a lot
I think
to that.
parents can relate a lot to that, to be fair.
Anyway, yeah.
I had someone out who's, you know, got a bit drunk on a Tuesday morning. It's like, oh, fuck's sake.
It almost is a bit of a father-son kind of story between them, isn't it? In a
Good
weird
father
way that
figure.
Reservoir Dogs is like a twisted father-son kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
no, it's about the war on terror, Harry. Reservoir Dogs, everyone knows that.
It's about
the Iraq
Tarantino, like
War.
he's starting to say the N-word.
That's Django, mate.
Alright, well, I'll finish off that this is, if I had to put this film into a maths equation, it would be Snatch minus Pulp Fiction equals In Bruges. And I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's very good.
Nice. Out of curiosity, what would you give Snatch then?
Oh, fuck. I'm not talking about score, I'm talking about content of the film.
Oh.
I don't know. It's actually pretty similar, to be fair.
Yeah, because judging by that equation,
So, yeah,
you'd probably have to give Snatch a 9 and Pulp Fiction a 1.
No, I'm talking about content of the film.
Yeah, no, I
and
see what
tone
you mean.
and stuff.
Ethan, do you want to go? 'Cause I'm torn between two ratings.
Yeah, no, I'll go next. I think Tony, I'm also going to give it an 8. This film, and it's a very, very solid high 8 as well. It's really good. Like I've said before, it's extremely rewatchable. I watched it twice on the same day. I didn't mention that. We were talking about how much of a dick Colin Farrell's character is, and I think those kinds of characters can get very, very boring and annoying quite quickly, and I think they do a good job not to make him that, and you to keep on watching him and keep on wanting to watch him as well. So that's what I've got to say. I've already talked about how it's just a beautiful town, and I want to go there one day.
I'd
to
definitely
Bruges.
rewatch it. We should do Mediate Bruges on-site podcast.
Top of the tower.
Yeah. Especially audio only. We go to Bruges.
We get our special guest in, not Peter Dinklage. What is that guy's
We're
name?
all not Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest guesses we'll ever get.
We accidentally get Peter Dinklage on the podcast. Like,
One guy.
This is the one
we
thing we didn't want
What's to happen?
Alright, can I give it a score?
Yeah, can I just say that on the IMDb thing, it has just the weirdest order for how it sort of tells your top build and cast. Like the second is ticket seller,
It's got to be in order of
Film
appearance.
Yeah,
director.
it might be.
Okay.
overweight.
That ticket.
Sometimes it's
guy who's like
alphabetical,
$4.90.
sometimes it's in order of appearance, sometimes it's the proper way, which is top billing.
So, and then you've got no, it can't be, because then you've got Colin Farrell as
Might be
Ray.
alphabetical.
Then you've got some random policemen. Then you've got Ray Fiennes as Harry, Brendan Gleeson as Ken,
Oh, wasn't it?
Ken.
Yuri, Canadian guy.
Yuri.
Yuri's good.
Yeah.
I love the fucking nooks and crannies joke.
Alright, can I give my score because I need to go to the toilet?
Sure.
I'm gonna give In Bruges a 9
Do
out
the
of 10.
poo or a wee, Harry.
You shit him.
Sorry, I undercut your number there.
I mean, that's just the reason. There's so many quotable lines. I can tell it's a sort of film like Hot Fuzz that I'm just gonna watch so many times because it just works for me.
And you're gonna
Really
watch
funny.
it for Jordan Prentice.
Yes, we found out his name. So yeah, because this is technically a competition, I shouldn't really be giving it an 8 because otherwise Johnny stays level with me. But it's a 9. I can't deny my heart. 9 out of 10. What a great film.
So that has it
That's
joint with
34.
Arrival.
I know
34 overall.
because it's
can't
not
do
as
that.
good as Arrival,
35.
but it's still very good. All right, Tony.
Hello.
This is round 3, Johnny,
Fuck.
which means round 3, Tony. Who's
Okay.
next?
Well, I'll give the name then. I'll sort of
Synonyms.
build it up.
Say Synecdoche, New York, and then don't pick it.
Tony,
I'll pick
Tony.
Arrival.
because of the way that podcast turned out, no one can tell why.
Is it that one?
Yeah, okay, so this is a film that I was originally going to pick for Retcon 2012 sort of year, but that's been reshuffled a bit, so I'm taking the chance to pick a film directed by Mamoru Hosoda, who, if you've also seen Summer Wars or The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which only Ethan has seen, then you'll recognize him. But he has picked the film Wolf Children. I think that's the name. Fuck. And it's basically just a film, a very adult film. I mean that in the actual sense of being an adult. Like, it's about raising children. But they're werewolves, and that's it. And it's very good, and I will see you all when we do that. Yeah. It's also an anime. Keeping the
Oh,
trend.
that's a given.